What's good, everybody? Khan here. Today we're going to go over this topic and we'll be using that example. As always, if you feel like my video is helping you, feel free to share it, and I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. That would be very helpful to me. Okay, happy learning. Before I go over how to multiply the matrix here, there's a couple reminders that I want you guys to remember. And this is really important for you to be able to do multiplying matrices. Make sure you know these facts first, okay? Number one is that the dimension, or how big a matrix is always measured by the number of rows that the matrix has by the number of columns a matrix has. So for example, in matrix A over there, you can see that there are 3 rows, right? Here's row 1, row 2, and row 3. And it is multiplied, by column 1, column 2, and column 3. So in this case, you can say that this matrix is a 3 by 3, sorry. There's 3 rows, 3 columns. Whereas here we have 3 rows and only 2 columns. So this is a 3 by 2. Now note that before you can multiply a matrix together, the one thing that you have to check is make sure that the column of the first matrix that you're asked to be multiplied, so for example this one, okay, must be the same as the row of the second matrix. If these two middle numbers do not line up, as in they're not the exact same number, then you cannot multiply the matrix. So in contrast, like this example here, I cannot multiply those two because the two middle numbers do not line up, or they're not equal to each other. Furthermore, it is important to know that these two outside numbers, what it gives you is the dimension of the product. The product, as in, once you multiply the two matrices together, the answer will result in a 2 by 1 matrix for this specific reminder here or example. So 2 by 1 is what the new matrix will look like. Okay, so in this case, before we multiply matrix A and B for this example here, what we got to check is make sure that these two middle numbers match. So that means yes, we can multiply. Now, we know that the new matrix will result in a 3 by 2. These are the number, right? So the new matrix, once we multiply this, it will be a 3 by 2. So the way I'm teaching you guys how to multiply matrices is maybe a little bit different than what your teacher requires you to do at school. Some teacher will ask you to memorize a set way to multiply this. But oftentimes when we do that, what happens is that there's a lot of memorization. So you don't actually know how to do this yourself. I'm going to teach you how to actually do this so you don't have to memorize like a specific formula to do this. So note here that you can see that it's a 3 by 2 as is the answer once you multiply it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this, and I know that it's going to have 3 rows and 2 columns. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you can see here, now you have 3 rows, 2 columns. And that is in fact how you can multiply the two matrices without having to use any sort of formula. Here you should notice here that this is row 1, row 2, row 3, column 1, column 2. So as you can see here, the position of this number is in row 1, column 1. This is called row 1, column 2. This is called row 2, column 1. This is called row 2, column 2. This is row 3, column 1. This is row 3, column 2. So this is actually how you multiply the matrix. So for example, for this slot right here, it says that we gotta take row 1 multiply by column 1. So we go to row 1, we multiply by column 1. Okay? So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take 1 times 4 plus 2 times 1 plus 4 times negative 2. Now, when you sum that up, that will be the result of that number right there. Okay? So in this case, we get 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus a negative 8 will result in a negative 2. So here I will have the result is negative 2 in that column. So here we can put negative 2. And we proceed in the same fashion. So here we see row 1, column 2. So we'll go to row 1. Here's column 2. It's that simple. So we go 1 times 3 plus 2 times 0 plus 4 times 2. So in this case, we're going to get 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 6 is 11. Then we go row 2, column 1. So here, let's delete that. So we go to row 2 and we go to column 1. So here's row 2 and here's column 1. So we're going to get 0 times 4 plus 3 times 1 plus negative 1 times negative 2. So we're going to get 0 plus 3 is 3. 3 plus a positive 2 is a 5. And then we go to row 2, column 2. That, row 2, column 2. So as you can see, it's not a very difficult process, but if you practice this way, there's row 2, column 2. If you practice this way, it will be a very, very simple process for you to get the question right for your test. This way you don't have to remember anything. Basically, just reason it out. See, row 2, column 2. For row 2, we're going to get 0 times 3, and then plus 3 times 0, plus negative 1 times 2. So you can see here, we just get a negative 2. That's the answer here. For row 3, column 1, that is our next one. Here's our row 3, and here's our column 1. So we'll get 2 times 4 plus 1 times 1 plus 6 times negative 2. So we have 2 times 4 is 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 plus a negative 12 will result in a negative 3. And lastly, we have our row 3, column 2. So here's our row 3, and here's our column 2. So 2 times 3 is our first value. We added 2. 1 times 0 plus 6 times 2. So we'll get 12 plus 1 is 13. 13 plus 6 is 19. All right, you guys, that would be the final answer for your matrix. -2, 11, 5, -2, -3, and 19. And like I've mentioned before, there are a couple ways to do it. You can also memorize a certain way to do it, but this way, like I said, is the best way and the easiest way for you to know how to do this on your test and not make an error or memorize the wrong method of how to do it. Okay, so again, if you find this helpful, please consider subscribing.